Hello, everyone. Welcome to the very first session of a five-part series focusing entirely on Decentraland. This specific session is going to be dedicated just to getting familiar with the entire ecosystem, all of the things that I could bundle together from 6 or 7 months of just relentless work and research in this area. I'm going to focus it primarily towards development. So this specific session is just going over a lot of the details that you might find interesting in the world. You can take any of the skills that you have if you're a smart contract developer or front end, back end, or anything like that. You will find a place with your talents to cooperate and work along with the entire community, and you'll find something to do. And we're really looking forward to having a lot of people join in and contribute. So before we actually jump into Decentraland, some of you might not have a Ethereum wallet. I'm sorry. So if you go, there's a very good doc. If you go to the Decentraland.org, I'd like everyone to kind of follow along because we will be jumping into Decentraland at one point. So you can do this while I yammer on about myself for a couple minutes. You go to the docs and go to Ethereum Essentials, and they have a really good tutorial for what wallets are and why you might want one. Obviously, it's outside of the scope. I'm making an assumption that most of you are very familiar with this already, as there's quite a number of DApp builders already attending. So I'm going to just explain a little bit about myself. Okay, so my name is Patrick Macomb. I'm a senior blockchain architect at Ernst & Young. This is the oldest picture ever of me. Actually, I look nothing like that now. It's probably about 10 years old. Let me turn my camera on for just a second. And you can see it now. So there you go. Hey, everybody. So this is what about 5 years of enterprise development and another 5 years of DApp building on the Ethereum network will do to a person. I got a lot more gray hair than I had previously, but it's not an accurate picture. So I've been working at EY for about 5 years now, and I started very early on when Ethereum was really just starting. It was like $30 or $40, I think, at the point, to kind of give you an idea of when I got into it. I've been working over the last like 4 or 5 years of training other developers. We started a very small team, and we grew to a large size. I think we're over 100 developers now. And that's not marketing people, or it's like developers, which is really interesting. We specialize in enterprise blockchain development, and through that entire run, I'm still working there. I was able to bounce around the country and the world and explain blockchain to a lot of people. And I've been exposed to a lot of use cases in the blockchain, supply chain and public finance and digital identities and decentralized files, so a whole bunch of things, to be honest with you. And I just wanted to bring that up just because I want you guys to know that I come from a place of a lot of experience in the blockchain world specifically. And UI is, it's a very good place to work. I really enjoy everything that I do there, past and present, and hopefully future. They do have some openings and things. If you are interested in maybe getting into some enterprise stuff, just get in touch with me after, and I can try to get in touch with whoever I can. I have a personal website. It is amazing. I built it like 5 years ago in React in about an hour and a half, and I just haven't had the courage to change it, and I actually have no need, but it's there. I also have a YouTube channel where I kind of it's very new. I just post a lot of videos of experiments and things that I've been working on. In the future, I will have a lot more tutorials. So I only have one right now about debugging, which actually can be applied to just any JavaScript front-end development debugging. But I wanted to show people that are unfamiliar with it, you can do it in Decentraland too, as well as a bunch of other little experiments. But I want you guys to know that you can jump in and go there. I also have published a open source library that kind of just makes a lot of things in Decentraland a lot easier. I actually got a grant for this, and I'll point that out a little bit later. All of these links and a bunch of other ones are available at the FBuilders NYC Decentraland Developers link here. That is in the meetup, so if you are having a hard time finding it, just go to the meetup thing, and you'll be able to get it. I've been also, I've been building web since like 1995. So I've been in this game for a very long period of time. I saw the birth of animated GIFs, CSS, JavaScript, essentially, like almost everything. From from the vast amounts of experience that I have, I honestly want to convey to all of you that I haven't been more excited about anything than I have been about Decentraland. In all of the years and all of the experience and everything, I just really want to, hopefully, through the course of this series, and maybe just this specific session, we'll hopefully get that point across about why I'm so tremendously excited about it and why you should be too. So we're going to just start with just taking a quick look at the Decentraland website. So hopefully by now you guys have made a Metamask account. We're not going to jump in just yet because I want to get to a couple things first. But just for those that aren't familiar, so Decentraland is a virtual, open-sourced, blockchain-based video game of sorts. It's a virtual world that runs off of the Unity graphics engine. You can create and develop anything that you actually can imagine for the most part. It actually is very similar to a lot of web development processes that you might have for like web development. So we'll get into those in further depth, specifically the next session and the following session. And we'll get into the thing that like called wearables, which are really interesting, and all of the various non-fungible tokens that kind of are both the foundation and the best part about Decentraland, or one of the best parts, at least until we all together get developing more interesting things. We can take a look at some, if you go to the site, there's some points of interest that you can bounce around to that are really cool. And obviously, like their website is I really like their website a lot. Let's talk for a moment about Unity. So before we jump in, I want to kind of set some expectations about what we're going to see in there. So it uses the open source Unity graphics engine, which anybody that plays any video game on your phone, on a tablet, PlayStation, Xbox, even your PC, everything. More than likely, you've come across a game that runs on the Unity graphics engine. It is probably, I think it's the second most used. Maybe the only one that might be a little bit more popular is the Unreal Engine. And they're close competitors, and they're always constantly competing with each other. We can take a look at like just some of the graphic capabilities that this engine does provide. And I really want to point out that there's a lot of amazing things that could be done with this engine and in this world. But when we go into Decentraland, you might feel like there's like these graphics aren't fully realized. And that's entirely because there's not a lot of developers that are fully aware of what it can actually do. And when we run through this world in just a couple of moments, just think in the back of your head of this type of quality of graphics and of what you can do to maybe add to some interactivity and other various things. But let's just kind of keep that in the back of our head. And if you go to Wikipedia, you can see just the amount of games that actually run on this engine. It's great. There's a whole bunch of them. Let's keep going. Right? There's a whole bunch. And this graphic engine, that Unity, right, with the Decentraland's capabilities, they leverage an open source 3D file format known as GLTF. So let me go over to the top. So you can go to the Blender website and just kind of get an idea of the GLTF format. I highly encourage anybody, even if you're a developer, especially if you're a 3D modeler, you should be very familiar with this page here. It shows you like all the different types of textures, and we'll get into those in further detail like as we go. And one of the most important things actually on this while I'm here, I want to point it out, is this one right here, which will allow you to set up the nodes to the maximum. This is everything that you can do. Now, I'm just going to move off from this for a second. This is all leading to something, and I apologize if some of you are programmers who have no intent of doing 3D models. I think it's absolutely important that we are aware of all of the things that happen in Decentraland. Like programmers, you're going to have to know about the various model types, the pros and the cons of doing things in certain ways, regardless of anything, right? And the 3D modelers are going to need to know how to format things so that the programmers can use them. It's very similar to a front-end designer's relationship with someone who just does comps or mocks for front-end UX type of experiences. Right? So there's this wonderful website. It's called Sketchfab.com, and I want to show you guys this thing. So this is it's a great website where users can create their own 3D models and upload them and sell them ideally. But I love this site for the sole purpose. I love it for a lot of reasons, but one of the main reasons is I can show people what the possibilities are in terms of the graphics in Decentraland. So this is a good example. I love this guy. Look at this little guy. You can go to this website and you can bounce around and follow along. But this is running in my web browser. It's running essentially the same thing that Decentraland is actually using. Right? There's a concept of bones, and we'll get to those in further detail at some point. There's so many blanks these things move. All the various. Let's look at the wireframes. So obviously he's made up of little triangles, right? And there's this concept of textures. I'm just lightly combing over everything so we're a little familiar, because I might reference some of these things when we do our deep dive in about another 10 minutes from now. But here we can see how textures are actually mapped to the 3D objects. Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's like a rug, kind of. It's kind of like papercraft. Some people like to print things out on their home computer, and then they can cut them into weird shapes. It's about the same principle. And this mesh is actually wrapped in a bunch of different textures. So there's different types. There's some that are just entirely just color, and there's other ones that give you a little bit more information, and it'll look a little bit weird. And I believe on the 4th session, we're going to do a real deep dive into what all of these things are, how to build your own models, and how to texture them all properly. And if you know anybody that is into this type of thing, you have plenty of time to let them know what day and time. We'll probably have that provided at the end of the session. But just to give you an idea, when you grab all these things and you wrap them all together, it looks like this. So I'm getting some notes. So I apologize. I'm kind of outside at the moment. A little bit of rain. I apologize if any of that noise is coming through. Maybe you guys like it. Maybe it's a little ASMR or something. Okay, so we're going to jump into Decentraland now. Let's do it. Okay, so you could just go to the Decentraland.org website. We're going to click on Get Started. It does take a little bit of time to load. And we're going to get our first experience in Dissension for a lot of you. Cool. All right. So there is a tutorial on many of your screens. You're probably going to be exposed to what the types of controls are. Right. It's going to explain to you WASD, W-A-S-D, which is a very common control scheme for all video games on the PC. It allows you just to kind of move around in your environment. They'll likely explain to you that when you press V, you can actually change your perspective from third person to first person. They're useful in different areas. Some areas you will only want to use first person. Other areas you'll only want to use third person. Right? You can press the T to type. And the most important one that I want to get into before we dive into this pool of water. Actually, you know what? Let's just do it. Let's all just dive in, and we'll get exposed to some of the fun and interesting perks of Decentraland. So obviously, Decentraland is based in a crypto world, and crypto is weird. And we're seeing a little bit of that immediately. There's a weird muscly Doge guy running around. We don't know what's happening. Look at the stomps thing over there. So this entire world is just wrapped in memes and everything like that. There's bizarre NPCs that you can interact with. They just recently added quests, and there's a lot of events that are constantly and sporadically happening all around us. We even got like weird tributes to Elon Musk that are fun. But right now this is just a video game. Like, it's not any different than what we've seen or we can have on our phones, really, for the most part, in terms of experiences and graphics. But we're gonna exit the gift shop right here. We're gonna go outside, and I'm gonna hit a button that's gonna be really, really important. I'm gonna hit the map button. That's you hit the M key. And what this does is it opens up your map and it exposes us to the vast open 90,000 parcel size environment we got going on. It's all virtual space. And as I hover over these little cubies, these little guys that we have here, these are non-fungible tokens. So we're obviously very familiar with OpenSea and what all of the art. These things sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars sometimes, depending on which ones they are. But these are just images for the most part. Not to like deflate the importance of the utility of them or anything, but that's really what they are. Right? In Decentraland, you can own a non-fungible token, which is essentially the ground that you walk on. So each of these are purchasable, and they're purchasable through not that one. Where did the other one go? They are purchasable through the marketplace. And let's just go there real quick, and let's just get a little bit of an idea of what's happening. There's a lot of wearables, and we'll get to those in a minute. But let's look at the land. So when you first get to you go to marketplace on the site, and you go to land, and there's this one view. Let's click over here. This will change the view from like a Google Map to more of a list. And we're going to get to see like the prices of these things. So each of these little bits of land, that's 5,500 mana. Mana is the currency that runs Decentraland. You can use other cryptos, by the way. You can use Ethereum, you can use Tether, you can use any ERC20 that you want. You can use any NFT type or anything, but the underlying money system in Decentraland is Mana, which has this logo. There's two different types of mana, by the way. It might be worth noting. You have regular mana, and then you have Polygon wrapped mana. Now, that's obviously necessary for those of you who are familiar with Polygon. It allows you to do faster and cheaper transactions on the Ethereum mainnet. And at the current state, yes, it's pretty expensive, so you would want to move your money over there as fast as possible so you can have, a faster, more fluid experience in this virtual world. But we're looking at some of these other pieces of land. I mean, these can get pretty pricey. These are also not the final price. These are just what people they want to get for their land. So no one's going to spend $200,000 particularly. Maybe they will. I have no idea. But if you wanted to kind of, hello? It was actually somebody in the world, I think, that was talking. They were hitting their mic. So let's take a quick look at what the community, the entire blockchain community kind of thinks about Decentraland. Well, they think that Decentraland's got quite a community. They do have a pretty decent retention. A lot of people are interacting with it. We got a bunch of this stuff. But down here is where it's important. These are the last actual sales. So on the page that we were just on, it was just kind of people just making, like, I wish somebody would buy this for $200,000. But this little bit of land, someone actually just bought for $73,000. It's quite a lot of money. So I know that a lot of people are probably thinking to themselves right now, I don't have that much money. I want to get into this. I want to be able to do stuff. Well, you can be rest assured that you can buy little bits of land, you can pull money together, and you can buy it together with a bunch of friends if you wanted to. Or you can actually rent land. So because it's a non-fungible token, it allows us to do quite a number of really cool and interesting things on the blockchain. So there's different ways to rent land. You don't necessarily need the blockchain to do some of those various things, but you could rent, if you want to put on a large event or anything like that in the future, as we get down to that aspect of everything, it could be like a couple $100 for like a month. It kind of just depends on the market and what you're looking to do and what area it is. It actually eerily resembles the real world in some regard. And I often think of Decentraland, I always kind of equate it to the Ropson of the real world. So Ropson obviously is the Ethereum testnet where developers can submit their smart contracts and play around and test out new protocols and various things in order to like battle ready test it and make it ready for production. And then things just naturally migrate on over to the real world. And I think that Decentraland, we can play around with a lot of different concepts that we can't really do in the real world right now. Like, for instance, I'll get to that right now. Decentraland operates entirely on a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization. And this allows anybody that owns land or owns mana, they can actually vote on certain aspects or improvements or things that they want to see changed or removed, or it's essentially a digital government. And we can start voting in a second, but if you guys want to scroll down through this, you'll be able to see some most of you are familiar with DAOs, but you can get some more specific information about what this specific DAO does, right? So it allows you to, well, let me just do one thing. I'm getting some feedback from this world. People are asking about the casino. We'll get to the casino. This is interesting. All right, I thought I had everything needed. Yeah, we'll just close that for now. Sorry, everyone. Okay. So one of the things that we can do is we can, as a community of people, we can make proposals to the DAO, and the DAO would allow everybody within Decentraland to vote. So we can issue new land if we feel like we have to add more property, maybe it's too expensive and more people want to get in. Somebody can submit a proposal, which is really, it's fantastic that they can that this community is that open, right? For like maybe a land auction. We won't probably likely see one of those in the near future, but the fact that we can do it is really cool. We can, add new wearables, and we'll get to that in a little while. And there's actually, let's just jump right into this, like at the DAO. So these are all current proposals, right? Let's look at all the proposals, right? So we have some people that just want to get some information, but then there's these things called grants, and this is also an area where a lot of you that don't have enough money to buy land, what you can do is you can submit a proposal. And you can say that I want a piece of land, and on that property, I want to build this wild and crazy thing. But I need about, $5,000 or $8,000 worth of mana. Well, you can submit a grant proposal. And if the community likes what you're saying, they can actually grant you the proposal. And it may take a month or two for it to actually manifest. They kind of do conjure new mana, or they mint it as a result of the voting on the DAO. But if the community does deem it to be, a benefit to the rest of Decentraland, then they might give you the money so you can buy some land. It's also like really exciting. You can also, there's also on the map, I'll have to go back to it, but there's various points of interest on the map. You can vote to have yours added, and actually I think even removed. And the way that content is distributed in Decentraland, we'll get to that in just a moment too. It requires very specific nodes. So with the Ethereum ecosystem, you have miners. You have it with all blockchains for the most part. But in Decentraland, the content is distributed amongst a bunch of nodes, and you could volunteer or make a proposal that you would like to be one of these nodes, and that alone can help support the larger ecosystem and everything like that. It'd be really cool. Let's see, and I actually got a grant not that long ago to make that NPM package that I showed you guys earlier. They have a wonderful blog where they update the community on, the state of the blog of the grants. So I had this one, my open source one, and then so you can get an easier view on what's been successful and what isn't in terms of the grants. It's great, and they have a lot of other announcements. Let's look at some of these too. Is it all articles? They just did some releases. Yeah, so they just released a very new version of the SDK. So the next session, which is next week, 1 week from now, we'll be going into that very, very specifically. We're going to be making a miniature scene. We're going to get familiar with all of the important components and things that make up a Decentraland build. They also added quests recently. There's only a number of them right now, but just because it's literally 2 days old, we're likely to see a lot more interactions and things in the very near future. Okay. So should I jump back into? Let's jump back into Decentraland and run around a little bit. Let's take a look and we'll find that casino that guy was asking about earlier. We are actually, at the moment, we are streaming this as well, not only to YouTube and other things, but to Decentraland itself. Maybe we'll pay that a visit, to be honest. Maybe do that. Also, I definitely have to point this out. I'm surprised I didn't get there earlier. I'm running this in a web browser. That's not the larger vision of what Decentraland wants to accomplish. They want to be able to provide it in virtual reality helmets on cell phones, and potentially, maybe even eventually, on some actual gaming systems like a PlayStation or Xbox. I don't know the likelihood of that just yet, but it is being looked into. So as we start to move into native apps, so like maybe out of the web browser on my Mac, but into a native Mac app, there's a lot more opportunity for graphical improvements, and among a myriad of other things too. Connectivity to Xbox controllers and obviously the VR controllers and those types of things are not that far away. I mean, maybe a year at the most is what certain expectations are. So let's just let's open up the map. Oh, I do have another one open. You may get this from time to time. Decentraland doesn't like it when you have multiple tabs open. I'm using Metamask. I have a public key, and that it doesn't want to have multiple instances of you. If you do have another computer, you can open it up and log in with a different Metamask account. It's just one of the things that happens right now, and that only really is a problem on the web browser. I must have a rogue Decentraland right now. Not too positive about why. Apologies. I'm just refreshing. I think I might be wrong because I don't have anything else open. Also, feel free to use the Zoom chat if you guys have any questions, and I'll try to field them as I go. Here we go. See, it was wrong. So that's maybe a new bug that was introduced. I'm not entirely sure. Your experiences do vary. Obviously, that will not be an issue once we get into more native applications. Right. So let's just wander around for a little bit and see what other experiences there are out here, and get everybody excited about what we can kind of program together in here. So we noticed earlier that the graphics are not they're not the cutting edge. They're still pleasant and interesting. But let's walk into this little area over here. This is actually an art gallery. These are non-fungible tokens that are hosted on OpenSea. Right. So I think you can actually grab any NFT from any of the sites that you want. I think it's Rarible. I think is another one. Some of them are interesting. You can obviously interact with them and potentially purchase them if you want, or whatever they are. This little area is called Genesis Plaza, and it is essentially like a potpourri. It's a little bit of everything, so you can kind of see what other features and things there are. I think I want to go in here. This giant, weird-looking building is actually a historical museum for Decentraland, so I suggest everybody come in here and pay it a visit. It does cover a lot of the stuff I already yammered on about, including the DAO, and just like different land sales and the status of the avatar. It's an interesting thing. We just wanted to point it out, and we'll move on. Over here is an auditorium, which I believe is streaming some footage. I believe people could rent it out if they wanted to. Right now, it's just playing some video. There is live video streaming that goes into Decentraland. We'll get to that. We're actually going to see us streaming ourselves in a moment when I finally get over to there. But there are a couple little tricks about how to do it properly. And on future days, I will get into this specifically. But for those that are just curious, it does need HTTPS in the URL for the secure SSL cert. Otherwise, it will not allow anything. There's a little bit of some wearables. I'm looking for something very specific, and I'm not doing the best job on it. I think it's this one. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to walk over to the Trade Center. So this is essentially the first introduction to a plot of land or a piece that is actually calling an external API. So this parcel is asking another website, hey, what is the current mana price? And it's able to pull it down. When we get into the SDK, I think on the third session of this series, we're going to hopefully be able to connect to a WebSocket server. And from there, you will be able to send anything from the server to your plot of land. You can update this thing in real time. You can have more interactive games and experiences just because you have that fast, rapid levels of connectivity. Hello, how are you? there's a whole bunch of other information here too if you care about, you know, the different parcel data. But that's just just to let you guys know that there's a lot of things that are potentially possible in here. And I always kind of walk in the wrong direction, but actually I'm kind of hoping that I do. So we're still within the realm of Decentraland's like kind of home base, which is this giant green area, which is a plaza. There are a couple of these different plazas scattered across in this certain type of pattern, and they all got a different style and a different theme. They're actually right now, most of them are involved in quests, or they will be. But these green areas are like public spaces. We'll also notice, you know, these are obviously roads, the lighter shaded gray. These purple regions are called districts. So very early on, when Decentraland first started, they were a bunch of people that wanted to pool all of their land together to have like a certain type of experience. And it might be, oh, I want to have a futuristic city, or I want to have a Las Vegas style section. And that's essentially what all of these are individually. I believe there's a chart or something around where it kind of points them out explicitly, but I don't want to get into those right now. I do want to show you something that is a very rare website. A lot of people haven't really ever seen it. And it is, oh yeah, I didn't mean to click on this, but I might as well do it. Some land, it just sold for like almost $1 million. It's pretty crazy. This is the link that I wanted to show you. So, before we venture off into the actual part of Decentraland that I think is like the content, the user-generated content areas, which we're all super interested in, let's take a look at this weird map. It is not as common to see this map. Somebody actually put it together. I have no idea how they actually built this thing. But this was not made by Decentraland. It was made by a bunch of developers, and it is an amazing way of looking at Decentraland that most people just don't get to see. There's a link that is provided, so you can kind of take a look at it if you'd like. But we're noticing this is a bird's eye top satellite Google view kind of looking thing. And we get to see exactly how much content is actually being utilized or built into this little world. Now, also keep in mind, this is about a year ago, and it's quite different now. But there's a lot of empty space. This world is very undeveloped at the moment, and that's why it needs people like us to go in there and build some crazy, elaborate, interesting, weird stuff. Right? But when we run through this world, it's a lot of trees and weird little bits and pieces, and that's not at all what I want people to get excited about. And we'll try to find some of those right now. So let's do a little bit of actual. Let's bounce around. Let's take a look. What we got. So if you hit the X button, it's going to open up the Explore and Play. So this is all of the people that are currently in the world and what they might be up to. So we can see the population is not really all that fantastic at the moment. Not most, probably added all these things together. We maybe have like 200 people. It's kind of a slow day. I've seen this number get close to 2,000 probably. It depends on the certain types of events, days of the week. And all these other things. But let's take a look at let's go to the casino. This is one of the more popular spots that people tend to go to. And we'll actually think about how they're actually doing this, right? And I don't really know how exactly they're doing it, but as a web developer who's familiar with the technology, I'll probably speculate quite a bit about what's actually happening here. It's a very large piece of land, so it does take a little while to actually load. But in this casino, it's going to ask me to actually sign a signature just for verification. You might see those types of things pop up. It's okay to sign a signature. It is absolutely under no circumstances acceptable, by the way, to give anyone your private seed phrase. Just don't do it. I don't know how people keep getting scammed. Just please don't do it. Your seed phrase is like your magic spell. It is like it's a series of words that if you like a cantation, where if you say these words in a particular way, it manifests your wallet out of thin air. So if you tell somebody what your seed phrase is, they can just like say it wherever the hell they are, and your wallet appears like, I don't know, in their living room or their parents' basement or wherever the hell these scammers come from. So just keep that in mind. Please just don't ever do that. Okay, so we're at my tirade's over. We're back here. We're at the casino. We got a beautiful frog just is hanging out. We can play roulette. There's some blackjack and stuff over here. It's pretty cool. So somebody made a 3D model of each of these assets. They kind of did that little texture thing that we saw a little bit earlier with the dog. They actually have some some elements that are floating for these live numbers and stuff. So if you're familiar with the DOM, just imagine you added another layer or another axis for those elements so you can toggle them on and off. It's just JavaScript. We'll get to that next week. But this is, I mean, although it is very complicated, it is not outside of what the capabilities of most of the people that are watching this right now. So when you do a little interaction here or there, it will send the user's intent to the server. The server will be in charge of either generating a random number or doing whatever, and then it kicks it back. And obviously, people play this quite a lot. It's one of the most popular things in Decentraland. As soon as it's popping up like crazy. But it's just one stop on this little very quick Decentraland tour that I'm going to be giving. Let's take a look at something else. Another very, very big thing, is always the most popular, with rare exception with certain events, is the Medizone. The Wonder Zone, actually. So the Wonder Zone is the first attempt at a game, actually, within Decentraland. It is always populated with quite a number of people. Let's see a whole bunch more. Hold on. Okay, someone is just going to the someone is asking if you can only access the API or SDK if you own a parcel. We can get to that in just a second. There are certain APIs that you can access even outside of Decentraland. If you have to own the property, we're going to get to that whole deployment process in just a moment. But you need to own property to be able to push code. You need to have that non-fungible token in order to upload your models and your images and everything. And there's another question about Sandbox. Sandbox is interesting. I haven't had as much time to play with it as I have with Decentraland, but it is somewhat a competitor. And we might want to do a very specific metaverse talk about that. I think it would be really useful for a lot of people. But let's jump back into this. This is the Wonder Zone. So let me refresh real quick. One second. So the Wonder Zone is not the most exciting game that you'll ever play. In fact, there's a lot of phone games that are I think Flappy Bird is maybe a little more exciting sometimes, but it is an experiment that is fantastic, and what it actually does accomplish in the area of blockchain is really, really interesting, and it's worth highlighting. Okay, so the GUI should now be different. I resized earlier, and it was causing a bit of an issue. So when you first get to the Wonder Zone, it does take a little while to load. It is always full of a lot of people running around, grazing like cattle in an open field, anticipating a giant meteor falling from the sky and crashing. This is also a good opportunity to get a look at all the different types of crazy costumes that people have. We meet a lot of cool people here, actually. Yep, there we go. A meteor has fallen over here. This is the level of a game interaction that we're currently getting. Then you click it, and I'm currently mining. Wait for a little bit of time, and then it's going to explode, and it's going to give me a bunch of these materials. These materials are held on their server. This is not an official Decentraland game. This is a bunch of people that got together and had a really good vision about messing around with Decentraland and making non-fungible tokens. So I got some of those rare materials, and from there I can continue to do this a certain amount of times a day until I acquire enough materials that I can come back to this machine over here, and I could browse, and I could actually I could use those materials to actually manifest a non-fungible token, where I can play for free. I can get all these materials, and the only time that I actually have to pay any money whatsoever is when I do that Ethereum transaction. That's it. Just a mint. You have to pay to mint the non-fungible token. But some of these items do go for quite a lot of money. If we go back to the market, the marketplace, we can see that land was very expensive. but at times some of the unique wearables that people have been running around with can also be, a little bit expensive as well. Like this pig's head is 250 mana. There's a lot of really cheap ones now. These specific items are a business unto themselves. You can go ahead and design unique styles and mint them, and then sell them on the market. You don't need any land in order to do this, by the way. You can have pizza shoes for $20. Hey guys, that's pretty cool. I want some pizza shoes. But, let's go back. So this is what the Wonder Zone does. They have other games that they play around with every now and then, and they're constantly doing some really cool experiments in areas, and I'm really excited to see what they kind of come up with in the future. We're going to wander around over here. This is Sandwich Game, which does need multiple participants. This is a more interesting experiment with, like, I guess, it uses WebSockets to interact with a centralized server, and we can try to play it. I've never had really good success with it, but you need another participant. I guess Donut? Yeah, not Donut. This is an early game. I'm going to show you guys some other games in a second. I don't know. It's always different every time I play it. It's kind of got like a WarioWare vibe, which I'm okay with. I can't wait for this one. I'm sorry. Pablo is one of the best developers in Decentraland. He's actually gone ahead and has made a really good miniature golf game that will be out in the future. These are boxes. This is also a Pablo NFT project. You can take a look. This whole area has actually got a lot of really interesting things. And although I don't want to spend too much time running around in here, there'll be plenty of time to do that later. You can see that this is, these games, by the way, are probably about 6 or 7 months old, if not longer. So there's a lot of improvements that happen in the Decentraland community with the SDK and things that were not accessible during the time of it. And so you could ride a dragon if you want, which is really fun. And I want to find the Medizone because I want to see this video. There's the aquarium. Guys, feel free to bounce around through all of these things. There's quite a lot of things that are actually happening. There's Ethermon, which is a Pokemon type of game where you have an NFT of a Pokemon and you can battle them with other people. It's kind of fun. So let's get into also like the wilderness, because we're gonna get into building in a second, and that's where I'm gonna have the conversation about how is this content decentralized, and how do we as developers do this, how to build in here. So we're noticing something right now, which is this giant green barricade that is just kind of formed. This is my computer right now asking the Catalyst servers that exist, which are the content delivery network, so to speak, for this decentralized network. Those servers are, think of them like IPFS nodes or interplanetary file storage nodes, where they have the content. They have the models, the images, and the textures for this entire land. And when I walk into the view on the horizon, my browser is notifying those servers, and it's asking them, what is the parcel? What am I here? -50 by 51. That's the coordinates of this specific location. That server then hands that bundle of images, textures, and models and code directly down to me. Okay, so that's what's going to happen. That barricade there is just kind of letting you know, hey, it might as well be a buffering icon. But don't think that you're not allowed in a certain area right off the bat. So we're starting to see some. This is user-generated content that isn't made by Decentraland. So we got like concepts of like, some advertisements, some interesting models. I don't know what's happening. Yeah, they had the Pride Month. There was a lot of there's a lot of NFT collectibles. You can actually come in here, buy some wonderful virtual paraphernalia collections. So if you were inclined to make a bunch of different types of wearables, there's different ways that you can sell them, obviously from the website. But now we're starting to see that someone made an entire virtual kiosk, so to speak. So you actually don't have to leave Decentraland in order to purchase them, which is really, really, really pretty damn cool. So this is an exhibit. We're going to move around. We're going to start to, I want to get into the weirder areas. And believe me, there are some weird areas in Decentraland. It is essentially Burning Man if it was just running entirely on crypto. It's really weird. There's some freaky fun stuff. Depending on the direction that you leave and you wander in, your experiences are going to vary very wildly. So now we're getting into some of that stuff that I was telling you about earlier, where there's a lot of undeveloped land. So these are parcels that people have purchased with some expectation that the value will go up. They don't have any developer experience, and they have no idea about how to do much of this stuff. But obviously, by the end of this series, we'll all be very, very familiar with how to do anything. And we could approach these landowners, tell them whatever weird, crazy idea that we might have, and maybe even work out some sort of a deal where we can do something together, or you could do something with them, or do whatever. It's all up to you. So we're seeing some stuff, and this is what I wanted to get to. This is perfect. See this thing? What we got over here? It's not very, very elaborate or interesting. There's no interactivity, and you might feel like this is pretty bad. But I'll tell you why a lot of this type of stuff exists in Decentraland, because we're going to see it a lot until we actually, as developers, get together. And the reason is because when you are in Decentraland and you own any form of property, there's a builder. And what this builder is a UI that lets you, kind of like in The Sims, kind of drag and drop and create a specific scene. Right? Say I only have one plot. So this is a fantastic effort on behalf of Decentraland to kind of create a way of people that aren't familiar with the SDK to build and create these wild and weird things. Right? So this is what it looks like. Sorry if you hear any background noise. I'm in the middle of the storm. You have different categories of various things. You can kind of just drag and drop. And the experience, it's a little bit raw at the moment. There's a lot of work and effort that goes into this, and there's a lot of future updates that are planned to make it a lot more intuitive. But obviously, the next session and the one after that, we're going to be bypassing this thing entirely. But I'm bringing it up because of two reasons. One, this is why a lot of the content is that way. It's because they own their property and they come in here and they just drag a couple things, and then they hit the deploy button, which is I don't know where the hell it is. And they kind of just walk away. Some people, they spend a lot more time in it, and they achieve some really interesting stuff in here, by the way, with just these like very basic tools. But it's actually, you can do, there's a thing called smart objects, and we'll get to that in just a second. Actually, they got to be in here somewhere on the Genesis Plaza one. Yeah. So these individual little icons. Now, this as a developer is an area that I think that we could definitely see some profit. Like as a developer, you can actually create a 3D model, and you could actually say on that 3D model that you can declare some variables and have an entire series of interactions, and you could just focus on that, and you could build that, and then you can sell that. And we'll get to that in just a second. But this is a little chest. Like you can make the models and then you program it so that it opens and you do certain stuff. And actually, you can even jump into preview if you want. And now you can run into the world and you can actually open it. You can attach it to other things. Like if you hit a button, it opens, or if you accomplish a certain amount of things in the builder right now, which is really interesting and it's really, really good. But once we get into the SDK, you will have absolute control over everything. And it's going to be, I will get to a little bit of it by the end of this session, I promise you. But we have to be familiar with like a lot of the things that are happening here. All right. So I just showed you that. Let's take a look at one of the websites within the Decentraland community called the Medizone. So we just saw that smart object. This is a website that somebody has made that is not affiliated with Decentraland in any way, where they're trying to make smart objects that people can buy and sell. Now, the website, it could use some work. It's a little, it's a little 2005 kind of, I get it. But, there, you can go here to get an idea of some of the other things that are happening. Alternatively, if you are a series of developers and you feel like you could make this a better experience, you can go right ahead. There's nothing stopping you. This site is actually accessing a lot of APIs and doing a lot of stuff. I always prefer to have cooperation instead of competition. So maybe reach out to those people individually if you have their own Discord, and maybe you can actually jump in and play around. So this is an example of Ethermon, a group of developers that made a little Pokemon game, and they sell them for quite a bit of money, $250 a piece, and man, they sold about 500 of them. So that's quite a bit of mana if you think of it in that regard. And there's really nothing stopping any of us from building some things like this. Now, a lot of them are very old, and there's not a lot of things that we're capable of doing at that period of time, which is just popular. As obviously the DAO makes decisions to improve the game in various different ways, we're going to see that the possibilities of what you can accomplish is going to be exponential. And it's probably a good time to just get in now and just start messing around with stuff. Let's take a look at some of the other metas. There's a couple that I wanted to point. This one specifically is one of my favorite ones to point out. So this is a kiosk that somebody has constructed. They wrote it in the SDK. They made a model. They created a UI. They're basically made a virtual. It's a kiosk, but it's like it's a credit card machine essentially, where you can trade and transfer various tokens using other APIs and other websites. So if you don't want to leave Decentraland for some reason, and they walk to like a club in the universe, and they're only accepting a certain type of token, you could just walk up to the machine and put it in. And it's crazy that this is even possible. And it gives hopefully a little bit of an idea about what is actually possible. And we've only barely touched the surface. Right? There's a whole bunch of other stuff. There's a lot of things related to videos. A lot of these things are pretty basic, and you guys can we'll probably develop some things that are very similar to this in the upcoming weeks. But there's a larger goal in Decentraland to create real NFTs that are regular NFTs. They're bundled. All they have is an image. Do I still have OpenSea open? Right. So regular NFTs are really just the images. That's it. Right. They're just a picture. But what we're trying to do is come up with a standardized way to take a thumbnail image, a 3D model, the many textures, maybe just one texture, but multiple if possible, and some programming code, and bundle them all together in the same exact way. And there's nothing that's like kind of happened in that way just yet, but there's a lot of we have to get the conversation really rolling in that area. Maybe some of you out there will find that to be an interesting thing that you want to jump into. Obviously, you can make up an idea, go to the DAO, submit a proposal, and allow the community to begin to discuss it. But I would prefer an actual standardized community approved version. It's the only one that I think would have any moderate success. Right? So with this service, essentially you pay the amount of money, they bundle it up as a zip file, and then they end up giving it to you in into the. Can I get out of here? Let me get out of here. Oh, 1 second. I'm sorry, I'm kind of losing track of what tab is what now. What's the form? Does anybody know where I am? Builder. Let's just go back into the builder. Okay. So in the builder, what you can do, I'm sorry, I lost the tab, so I'll start over. Is I can take that bundled up bit of information that hopefully eventually will become an NFT into its stuff. Needs some work there. The community's got to get it together. But you go to new asset pack. I don't know. Let's sign in. Oh, this one doesn't have MetaMask. Oh, I didn't set it up yet. Yeah, I'll skip it for now. Essentially, you just kind of drag it, and then it becomes available on the right-hand side. That alone, just being able to develop these types of smart objects, is an entire session that we do not have planned for. But I think I would like to eventually have one of the best developers in Decentraland that basically just specializes in that, speak to that specifically. So depending on how interested you guys are about it, I will do what I can to try to get the best of the best. But this hopefully explained a little bit of why we see these certain things. We can see like how they kind of grab this and they just kind of throw it down. Okay, so let's also do something really quickly. Let's jump to some of my properties, right? Because I want to show you guys some of the stuff that I worked on as well. And then we're going to go to the Medizone, although I have to find the exact coordinates. I know that there are people that are there that are watching, and obviously afterwards we can have like maybe like a party, so you can go and experience some stuff over there. So I want to show you guys something real quick about how easy it will be next week to find where I live. Got a couple properties. I don't know where the hell it is. Okay, here we go. I'm over here. 21, about this spot. I always jump to the road. I don't know why. So, on this specific piece of property, you'll notice there's a graphical error. There we go. There's an issue with my specific computer where the road it looks like I'm on LSD or something. That will be fixed shortly. We found out exactly what the bug is, and it'll be about a week before. But what I did here was I went to the asset store in Unity, right, which is a wonderful website. I would not recommend people do this just yet. I would wait till about the third session or the fourth session that is entirely dedicated to Blender before you really try to make an effort of doing this. Unless you're an accomplished 3D modeler, please don't, because they come in various qualities. Sometimes they're really good, sometimes they're really bad. You have to know what you're looking for when you do what I'm about to do. But I went to characters and I bounced around and I found some pre-existing models, and I was able to purchase them and import them into Decentraland. So as a programmer, maybe you aren't the best at 3D. Maybe you just need a little bit of knowledge in that area, and you need to get like something out there quick to try something out before you can actually hire a 3D modeler or group up with them in order to actually get like a better vision of what you want to do. But you can kind of come in here, and some of these assets you kind of got to feel around for a little bit sometimes. Sketchfab might be a little bit of an easier place to kind of tell. And there is a process. But I just want to let you know that's essentially what I did is I went to a website and I found a doggy, and he had a bunch of little animations. I'm sorry. And I purchased them, and I put them on my property. Right? So I do have some code that I can actually show you guys a little bit of the deployment process about maybe jumping into the SDK just a little bit, so you guys are a little bit understanding about what we're going to do next week. We got a lot of different directions we can go in. Maybe we'll do a little bit of that actually. All right, let me just do one thing. All right, all I want to do is I want to get my coordinates because I don't really know them off the top of my head. I'm just gonna copy it for now. Okay. By the way, also keep in mind up in here in the URL, this contains quite a bit of information. It's not just what land it is or whatever. There's a concept of an island, which is one of the servers that we're connecting to. And there's also an idea of a realm. Both of these things I'll get into a little bit further depth in like maybe a future session. But the position, my coordinates. Damn it! How much I did not know how much I wanted to talk about coordinates until I started playing Decentraland. It's fantastic. You're giving people coordinates, you're getting coordinates. I didn't know I needed that in my life, but I just copied them. I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna go. This is how easy it is to actually install the SDK. npm install Decentraland. Next. I'm gonna get the next version. Right? That's it. For the most part. And you wait a little while. It's gonna get real fun, guys. You can do this right now on your computer. I highly encourage you to do it. And it's an exciting point in time because the new version just came out. We're gonna see some really cool things. Some of which I gotta get familiar with myself. There's a big update that just happened today. So that's what it's going to get. Boom, it's done. The vulnerabilities. It's okay. Not a big deal right now. Then we do. I'm in an empty folder right now, or I was. No, I'm not. Oh, wait, did I do G? Oh, I'm stupid. npm install G. You gotta do it globally. I apologize. Don't worry, I'll remove it. It's already in cache. It should be popping. But you have to install it globally. I gone down goofed it. It takes a minute. And now, let's see. Let me just dump. There we go. All right. Now all you have to do right? It did the install. You do DCL init. This is going to create a package JSON file. It's going to basically install all of the packages that you have. We can now take a look and see what files are in there. There's not a whole bunch. We can actually open up code. I have a command line. I just open up code. Open it up. Boom. We're going to get to see our first introduction to some code. Don't be intimidated. A lot of this stuff isn't as confusing, or you have to learn a couple new glossary terms if you're familiar with JavaScript. There's just a very few new nuances to it, but largely you can just transfer all of the development knowledge and everything that you have and put it right over into Dissension without much of a fuss. One of the first things we're going to take a look at right now is this scene.json file, as my computer catches up. Okay, so this is one of the files that determines the parcel of land. This is like when I decide to deploy and take this content, this stuff that I'm putting together, it looks at this file and it notifies the Catalyst server about my intent and like, you know, what parcel is it. So let's do that real quick. Let's throw in the what are the coordinates? I think it's 21. I think that's where I live, right? And there's a parcel, and then there's also a concept of a base. So if you have multiple parcels that are clustered together in an estate, you might want to have one be the primary. The base is just kind of like, out of these 10, this is the one I want to be important. That's it. I'm going to hit save for right now. That's all. I mean, you could update all this other stuff, kind of like a package JSON. You could add all that information into it. And let's take a look into our source file. We have the game.ts, which we got here. There's some code that they always throw up there, right? We're going to go back over here. We're going to do DCL start. This is going to spin up a local series of, I don't know if they're Docker containers or what, to be honest. They have to be at least some services, I guess, because, 127 is a local machine, 8000 is individual port. It's doing this all automatically. I'm going to have a hot loading environment where I can actually just start saving code and playing. If you're familiar with some of the more modern front-end development tools, you're going to be very happy to know that this has hot loading. Okay, I'm going to try. How do I do this where I can have the screen open? Let's just see. Yeah, there we go. That sounds good. So we got some code. We have this little environment on the left-hand side. So this is, this is new to the 6.6.6, where it shows you, obviously, the trees that basically are littered all around Decentraland. I have a little parcel that is sitting here with a cube that is floating on it. And I am going to actually leave it the way it is for just a moment. I'm going to go into here. I'd shut it off for a sec. I'm going to DCL deploy. I want to replace my beautiful doggy with this spinning cube. I have another repo, by the way. All this stuff works really well with Git. You put down a Git ignore file and all these other things. The whole development process that you're familiar with in web development just works right. Hold on. Let's wait a second. I have to reconnect. In that wallet. Unvoke. Okay, so what this is doing is now it's basically saying it opened up a new web browser. It wants me to sign the payload, which at the moment is just a brand new installation of DCL of the build, the SDK toolkit, and I'm going to sign it. And it's going to pop up in the Metamask. It's going to say, "Hey, sir, do you want to upload all of this wonderful floating box JavaScript?" I'm going to say, "Yeah, oh yeah, I do." And if we go now, take a look over here, you can see that it is now, what it's done is it took that bundle, it took my signature, it sent it to the Catalyst servers, and they were like, "Hey, yeah, this guy owns that NFT, right? Because you can tell the public key. He owns it, and he signed it, and then he wants me to add this to the content delivery network." And that's what just happened. It happened so fast, very, very quickly. Now I can go back to this is not that one. I go back to my little dog. It didn't update immediately because the content just is there, and I'm sorry, pupper. I love you, dog, but I'm going to refresh, and we're going to see that box floating there now. It's quite honestly that easy to deploy. Right. And now, hopefully, I can get to the more fun stuff. I know a lot of you wanted me to get to certain things a little early, but I think now, oh, something went wrong. That is just what we had earlier, by the way. Don't worry about it. Let's refresh. Sometimes that happens. Just hit refresh if that ever pops up. I feel like we're going to have a lot of time for questions, or we can get further and further into code. And at some point in time, please let me know what you guys decide or what you would like to do. But let's look at the, where's it? Our dog is gone. Our dog. But here it is. Let my computer catch up. Now, keep in mind, it's also downloading a whole bunch of other weird things around us, right? All the land and everything. But we got this box. And the simple demo that exists is exactly what we have here. Right? Okay, cool. Right? Alright, so let's go back to our code. And let's just get rid of all of it. And we'll see. I just want to show you guys some of the hot loady parts. Actually, it won't hot load because I turned this off. You have to do DCS. It'll open a new tab, so I'm just going to close this in advance. So it's going to go ahead and do that. So, what I can do on my local instance, which is very new to the SDK, is I'll be able to switch between two different modes. I did not get to mention this earlier, but there is a day mode and a night mode. Future versions, there might be some variation. There might be a time cycle that are familiar with other MMOs and other games that are similar. Whoop, I don't want to annotate. Oops. Sorry, Zoom is getting in the way of my. Okay, so you have access to a lot of basically the entire GUI. If you were to do exactly what we did, where you installed Decentraland, if you did that yesterday, you wouldn't have access to all of this. It's actually very new. It's less than 24 hours now. You can adjust the different graphic quality to see how your current scene that you're working on would work in varying levels of graphical settings. I can do ultra. I'm on a pretty good computer here. And there's other settings that we don't really need to get into, to be honest with you. It's not as important. I can do a very specific tutorial about each of those features if necessary. So here we go. Here we go. So we can go ahead and maybe we can maybe mess with something. We could do something in code, I guess, or we could jump into. There's one more thing. I just want to make sure I get to every point that I had originally. Oh yeah, there's still some stuff for me to bounce around in, by the way, guys. So obviously, Decentraland is an open source community. They have over 180 repositories. That's pretty crazy. I want to identify some of them to you because if you do plan on jumping in and submitting a PR or joining along the lines of that, you should know what they all are. So the Explorer is the web-based Unity renderer player when we were bouncing around in Decentraland in the actual world. I'm asking too much of my poor computer here. That's it. That's what we're dealing with the Explorer. The marketplace is the front end UI that we were looking at all of the pizza shoes that are just everyone's buying a pizza shoes. The builder is the app that we just saw where you can drag and drop those items and you have the smart objects. The Catalyst obviously is the decentralized node network. The UI is it's actually a lot of components that they use to build out their front end. Some people actually abstract away the UI elements because they're reused across multiple things. And there will be a little bit of a shifting of these repositories in upcoming weeks and months. So I hear from good authority that they're going to be restructuring them to break them into smaller services and things so they can work on them in better ways. And yeah, that'll pretty much happen. But these are a lot of the main ones that I kind of identified. There's ones that are specific to crypto utils for interacting with smart contracts and everything. And lucky, we're about to get right into all of that. There's some other links. Let's see. Okay. I want to go to docs. So, as developers in the SDK, what we really care about the most is the docs section. And we need to talk about a couple cool things in here. So, they have pretty thorough docs. As far as it goes, it's it's acceptable, and I think actually exceptional in certain areas. Let's get into the SDK aspect, right? So we kind of went over what we just did to install. They remembered the dash G, whereas earlier I did not. DCL init, DCL start, a lot of that stuff. There is, here we go. We're going to be getting into next week the concept of like these things called components and how we build. But just to give you guys an idea of the overall documentation, it is pretty good. There are certain things here or there that might be needed to be updated in some capacity. But let's get into advanced, and let's go to some things that are. Oh, here we go. There's SDK library. This is good. So you should get very familiar with these tools that they have for. They simplify some things. If you want to have an NPC character run or operate on a certain path before it has an interaction or something of birds in the sky or anything along the lines of that, make sure that you thoroughly look through the docs and the util library. And I would even go as far as to say, jump into the Discord. That Decentraland SDK Discord channel is amazing. There's people like myself and a lot of other people that are just constantly helping people with any problems and issues that are around. So like if you don't know something exists, ask the community and maybe that can point you to something you're not totally unaware of. But there's quite a lot of things that are already being built. Obviously, I had made my own utility library because I felt like there were certain things that weren't there. You are capable of making your own utility library. Submit a PR to mine. I'll accept it if it's really cool, or just if it's useful. Actually, it's a utility library. But then there's these other libraries, and this is where, as developers, we're going to get most of our learning. We're going to be reading code, mostly. So this is one of the best ones. This is the Decentraland Scenes Awesome Repository. You could just do a Google search for Decentraland Awesome. It'll likely pop up. But what this does is it has a long list of various scenes and experiments, and some of them do date back quite a long period of time, and there might be better methods. But for the most part, if you want to build a sliding door, what you can do is you could just go to this. You open up this page. You actually could just pull down this entire scene. It has the scene JSON. It has the source. It has everything. It has everything that we saw earlier. And we could do DCL start, and then the window will pop up, and you'll have a door, and you can go into it, and you can open it and close it, or do whatever this specific demo does. But you can actually have a sliding door, and then you can go look at the code, and you can find out exactly how it works. Right? There's all different manners of different types of doors. A lot of doors. Jukebox. There's certain animations you might need to take a look at. Right. So we have a 3D model, but the way to have a certain animation play, there's an example sitting in here. That's really useful. And not only that, there's game mechanics. So Decentraland doesn't really have any physics of any kind. It does have gravity, I guess. I mean, you have like an avatar. I guess you jump, you could fall distances. But other than that, there's really not much for physics, because the expectation is that you implement your own. Obviously, you don't need to be bothered or pestered with the laws of physics. Decentraland doesn't care about electricity or plumbing either. But in here, I had a link. I'm looking for it. Well, I'll do it. I'm sorry. Oh, here we go. We have Canon.js is a very, very popular JavaScript physics engine. It's very lightweight. So instead of, if I was to throw a ball between one character and another, I could do two things. I can try to send an update of that location every single frame of animation, which is a lot of data you got to throw just throwing a ball, Or what I can do is I can say, this ball is at this location, and then all I'm actually sending is the force and the direction, maybe some rotation, and I just give it I just send that bit of data to the other user, and the physics engine will just simulate where the ball goes in what direction based on that simple principle, right? So it's like you're not sending a lot more data. It's a lot more efficient. Might be alternatives or anything, but for most of the examples that we're going to see in this awesome repository, They're all pretty much using Canon.js. It is one of the more preferred ones that are happening there. I always seem to lose the tab that I was at. Here we go. Okay. So I think Coconut Shy, I think, uses Canon.js. Oh, yep, they do. There's a really cool beer dispenser. I'm going to be adding that to, I own a bar in Decentraland. I'll show you guys that in a little while. And we're going to go over to the Medizone movie. And you guys can feel free to go to the Medizone right now. It's one of my favorite places in there. The owner of Zoo is a fantastic man. I love him. Just browse through here, picking up objects and moving them, all sorts of stuff. There's cool things when you get into another, it's called Colossus servers. What is that? Event hosting, POAP machines. By the way, if you guys aren't familiar with POAPs are pretty important to Decentraland. I know what you think about it. These are kiosks that are like thrown around Decentraland at all major events. And if you're throwing an event at Decentraland, if you don't have a POAP machine, then nobody's going to attend it. These are just, it's a proof that you went to something. It's basically like a wristband that you would have if you went to like a rock show or something like that, right? It's, people like to collect them, primarily. Kind of just shows all the different places that they've gone to. They're free to make. You just kind of have to go to their website, and there's maybe easier ways to do them in the future. But just a simple Google search, and you can probably just look at this and pull this down. Actually, this repo, you can probably find it. Somebody made a digital bouncer. I guess if there's like somebody who's being a nuisance on your property, you could just basically tell them to get the hell out. All right, we got more physics, crypto. So obviously, Decentraland runs and operates on crypto. A lot of these examples will tell you how to interact with certain contracts. You can interface with any smart contract on the blockchain. It doesn't matter, right? It's blockchain. You have basically any Web3 call, whatever you're doing, Ethers.js kind of stuff, whatever you're normally used to, you can actually just do. So if you want to have a button that, in order for it to open, someone's got to pay you like $2 and 2 mana. Ideally, it would be Polygon, right? But it could happen. You can make a door, and we see an example of that in a little bit. There's NFT wall. There's one where you can have a door that only opens if a user has a certain NFT. Well, that opens up an entire experience where you can sell virtual tickets to events if you wanted to. You can have VIP lounges and other weird areas, and private access to certain things if you were able to program and write it all in, which is really, really exciting. Let's see. I'm trying to just point out, you guys can go through all of this stuff yourself. But there's also Colossus servers, which I have another link somewhere floating around. Oh. And here, Colossus servers. So Colossus is a way of handling your WebSocket connections. So in Decentraland, it hasn't really noted. Probably didn't have to bring it up until now, anyway. But let's just go to there real quick. I'm in Decentraland. Let's talk for a moment about the way that users interact with each other in this realm. And in fact, let's go to, where is the Medizone? Hold on, I'm trying to find it. One second. I want to find a group of people. That's all I need right now. As I'm sure I'm getting messages from. Let's go to the high. So it is a decentralized community. The content is handled in a decentralized way. I still have to go to a pretty centralized play.decentraland.org. But that obviously can be decentralized with using an ENS type of thing. There's a possibility that all of this stuff most of it at least, can be stored in IPFS. There's further ways to decentralize it from where it is, but you got to make these little steps in little bits and pieces, probably. So apparently, there's a couple people in this location. I've been here once before. It's pretty cool. They actually have like a really nice, pretty decent model with some nice animations. We got some NFTs that are kind of cool. It looks like we have we have a quest. You can see in the top right hand corner. So I guess it was very much inspired by that looks like a World of Warcraft kind of thing, doesn't it? Anyway, so we see our user over here. I can see his name running around. What's up? All right, so when I entered into this area, the Colossus servers basically gave me the content, but it also kind of let me know like who's in the area. What I've actually had happen is it established a peer-to-peer connection between me and the people in this property. So when I walk into this world, the state of this specific location, it starts from the default state. Now, if I was to program in that the user picks up a bottle and puts it on a table, but that's essentially kind of it only happen on my computer if it's just done the way that it is, because it's only my machine. You have to use a thing called the message bus, which allows other people on the net, like the peer-to-peer connectivity, to let them know, like, hey, that guy picked up that bottle and he moved it. Right. That's one aspect to it. A lot of these things we're going to get into a lot more detail in upcoming weeks. I just want to throw everything at you and be kind of crazy. What's up, Nico? Nico's going to hopefully be joining us on the fourth session. He works for Decentraland as an SDK developer. He's a fantastic gentleman, and you could probably eat a sandwich, Nico. But Colossus server over here is a way of handling all of the WebSocket connections that you might want to have between your users. It's really kind of cool and interesting. I will maybe want to have a dedicated session just towards that. But I want you guys to all be familiar with all of the pieces of this ecosystem that's happening. There's Nico. He's following me around. I love Nico. Nico, what's up? Let's get more. Okay. Let's go take a look at some of the properties that I got. I'm not trying to like sell or doing anything like that. Obviously, I do have some expectations of what I want to accomplish in Decentraland, but I feel like it might be useful for you guys to see like my portfolio, right? You want to see what I've done and what I'm currently up to and doing. So I want to kind of get through some of that. Bye, Nico. See you in a bit. Okay. So I live in New York City, or I used to. Now I live like 30 minutes north, for the most part. But in New York City, I loved a little area called Long Island City in Queens. It's a real place. I used to do stand-up comedy and all this other stuff at this comedy club called The Creek in the Cave. Unfortunately, due to COVID, they kind of closed down and it's not around anymore, right? But this was an actual location. You can actually see actual pictures of it. We're starting to see a little bit of a type of trend in terms of real life locations being pulled into Decentraland, and I wanted to actually kind of experiment in that area. Right, so this is actually, you can see it. I don't know why it does that sometimes, but it just kind of blue screens for a second. One hit the right tab. Anyways. I'm going to plug in my computer. I think that might be a part of it. Okay, so you can see like the similarities already. And then there's also, this other place called Domini's LIC, which is the bar that I would frequently, I would get drunk at a lot. I love that place. It's fantastic. But you can see like this is how it looks. We're going to see what type of job I did that actually, not only myself, I hired a 3D modeler by the name of Mindforge, who's an amazing 3D modeler up in Canada, and he was able to set down the basic foundation for all of this, and we've just been iterating over it little by little. But you can see like we can kind of create like some pretty decent looking stuff in here. I mean, obviously I'm going to be doing another pass very soon, but I mean this is pretty much like it looks like the place. It's kind of cool. And in here I'll be designing and developing a bar game very soon. I also have a bunch of other things. My computer's unhappy with me at the moment. There's also there's a comedy club on the roof. So there's a company that is basically they're called Comedy Decentral, which is maybe the best name for a company I've ever heard of. They organize live comedy events where and I hosted one on my roof. I now have a dedicated spot for them. But we're starting to see the ecosystem actually include people that don't actually do development. They might have content that they want to have pushed around and distributed into the virtual world. And that's kind of what me and the comedy Decentraland people like aligned very well. They're like, hey, you got a comedy club? And I'm like, hey, I have two. So they're on the roof. We can stream live comedy from other venues, from OBS. We could just do a video on demand thing. There's a lot of opportunities and like possibilities of just being able to do all that stuff. But for the time being, I'm just going to jump down. And, we're going to take a look at something that I'm very particularly proud of, which is I'm entering into the Creek in the Cave, which is that comedy club. It takes a little while though. That wasn't all that bad. But I've been messing around a lot with alternative and interesting ways of doing lighting. So when we get into the Blender section, I'm going to go over how we can, with certain methods and techniques, bake into the world, our lighting and kind of create. This is only just light, by the way. There's no textures or anything that are happening, but we can actually create a pretty realistic looking. This is actual comedy club. It is closed. It's no longer there, but at least it'll live on in spirit, eh? But that's I'll perfect this method over time, and there will likely be hopefully different tools and things to make it a lot easier as we ramp up into the possibility of actual legitimate lights in Decentraland. This is one of my properties. It actually is not all that active at the moment. I'm in constant development, as you can tell with it. But I want to show you guys some other things, another experiment that a lot of people seem to like, and I'll bring it up. I open source the majority of my code. I do hold on to a couple things here or there, but I usually just give it all away for free. If at any point in time you see something that I've worked on and you like it and you want it, I'll tell you where the code is, or just give it to you. So what I decided here, and I honestly think that I could use some help on this one, and if you do want to participate and jump in, I'd be more than happy to take on some people. But you saw some of the games that existed in the world. There's a lot of room for money, monetary wealth, and values. I got addicted to a bunch of different types of games. I got addicted to Stardew Valley. I got addicted to Slime Rancher. Just a whole bunch of different types of games, and I really wanted to build a farm sim. I was working at the bar, the virtual bar, and actually the real bar probably would more likely. And I wanted to create a way of picking up and putting down items and having an inventory system and various things like that. Those are all I have done that. They're all open source, and they're in my they're in that npm package that I have released. The documentation might not be there. Honestly, I might have to track back through there and just kind of add in, how to use all the stuff. I wanted to have a custom scene for it. But here we go. This is my little plot of land where I have my farm. And you can walk up over here and you can pick up, your seeds, various different types, and then you can plant them down. It's a very raw and pretty basic experience. Right now. This is really just a test for me to make sure that picking up of items and placing them down, can be achieved in an easy kind of portable way. Okay, so I got a question. It's like, is there a way to have virtual world reflect what is happening in the real world? Okay, so you do have access to hit any API if you were inclined to. Right, so we have docs.decentraland. So if we look at the docs, and I'll point you guys to it because you might want to jump into that area even before next week. I think it's in advanced. Network connections. Yeah, so you can do any form of fetching of an API call from, it's basically just an async await. But because we're doing it in Decentraland, we have to wrap it in something a little bit different. You have to use an execute task. So you got to keep in mind, everyone has to keep in mind, myself included, that you can't just treat this like Decentraland is a website. It's not going to work because they want to use it in native. They want to have it in virtual reality, and they want to have it in these other different areas. And they're brilliant in that they're trying to abstract a lot of those types of things away right now. Right, so that way that when they do port over to these other things, so you're not waiting for set timeout or some very, window dot something, because it won't be there. So just plan ahead when you're developing and creating the second code. Yep. Just wanted to give you guys a head up. Okay, so this is my property. I also do have there is a concept of an inventory system. This is actually surprisingly very close to working. I just haven't done the last 5 minutes. It needs, and there's a storm coming, guys. We might have to. We're gonna see how this turns out. This shakes out. Okay, so that's pretty much kind of what I got going on. I want to find the zoo. So let's find the Medizone. Let's go say hi. You know what? Let's do something else real quick. I actually can do this very easily. There's also a thing on the bottom left-hand corner where you can actually do chat, right? You can message individuals. You can do emotes. It's very similar to IRC or Discord or Slack, where you can do /emote. This other stuff. Oh, Kevin on Earth. He's good. Let's go bother him. Where's Zoo? We're gonna bother Zoo. So this allows you to friend people, and then you can immediately jump to them. So we're gonna go where Zoo is. It's always exciting. The guy's always up to something. Same with Kevin on Earth. Kevin on Earth has a podcast. He has actually a really cool Decentraland reporting thing that he's been doing. You guys should take a look at. Go to his YouTube and everything. I think it's daily. So even within Decentraland, as he's not even necessarily a designer or developer, but just being somebody that can help support the community by doing things like tour guides. There's an amazing tour guide. Hopefully on the 5th session, I'll actually get some of these people within the community to actually speak on the things that they're doing without actually doing development. They're doing very important things that are critical to the community, but they don't even have to touch code. They don't have to do anything in 3D. In some cases, they're actually making a lot of money. There's one individual that the majority of what they do is they purchase land and then they flip it and they resell it, which is also an entire different thing that you would never expect. And look, here we go. This is going to get really weird when we actually get to see what we're doing while we're doing it. We get introduced to our good friend Isaac. You're looking fantastic today, friend. And you'll notice a couple things. Zoo's actually using some of the things that I actually have built out here. I got an audio, and I might actually want to use this to lower it. It's not working. Okay. All right, let's do it. Experiencing a couple issues there. Anyway, we're streaming it live inside of Dissension. Thank you, Zoo. There's a couple people here. What are you guys doing? So this is a location where there's quite a number of live events. There's this location and there's another location. I believe every Friday you can go there and there's live music. There's events. You can spin a wheel and you can get a free NFT if you're participating. You could really bounce around for days all over here, guys. And I want you guys to do that. I'm gonna just bounce around just to some random location. I'm trying to think if there's any other questions. I'm gonna just open it up for some questions right now, guys. Jessica Gross, she's here. Jessica Gross is the tour guide. She's one of the first people I ever met in Decentraland. Fantastic. We're gonna get to know all of these people hopefully by the 5th session. We'll have some lightning round talks where they'll get to explain a lot of it. But look at the weird random things that you'll experience as you run around in Decentraland. It's quite fascinating. And it's only just begun. Once we start to hook into WebSockets and API calls and you get the quality of the graphic, the 3D modelers and everything, it's going to be do you have any questions out there? You feel free to throw it into the Zoom. In the meantime, I'm just going to kind of browse around. Um, 3D avatar. So you can, all of the items that you wear, these are just 3D models with textures on them. You will be able to, if you open up, you have a 3D Blender, you can make them yourself. Then you submit them. There is a process within Decentraland to mint your own custom wearables, and then you can sell them to people. There's a cap on how many you can mint, and they come in various amounts, but they all cost the same. So if you mint one, it's one price. It's the same price as if you mint 10,000. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. No problem. Thank you. Man. Glad to help. I just love Dissension. I think it's a really interesting area. There's so many different things that we can do. If anyone has any other questions that are specific, I don't want to. We got a little bit of time left. Not too much to really jump into that much, but I do have time for questions. And if you have any questions that extend out of this, if you're somebody that is watching this late, on YouTube or something after this event, it's live, go to the Discord, the Decentraland Discord, the SDK chat room. Reach out to me. I have provided my Discord name. Feel